Yeah, you're up, Tal.
Oh, you're hosting tonight.
Oh, am I hosting?
I was like, what? I thought something was wrong.
Oh my gosh, that's
a beautiful start.
Yeah, I guess I just got so flummoxed in setting everything up for the week. I was also thrown off because when I logged in today, you actually had like news stories populated, whereas usually I'm the first one to put news stories in.
Yeah.
So yeah, I've been discombobulated all day. Welcome everybody to another episode of the Enough to Keep Going weekly video games podcast. My name is GameLogIQ from the Rounding Off Infinity Gaming channel on YouTube. Back with another episode. This is episode number 356 for the 22nd of September 2024. Here with me, as always, I have my erstwhile stalwart partner in crime, Mr. Talmaster99. How you doing, Tal?
I'm doing well. Going through Stargate or Slider's wormhole here in the background. That's actually pretty nice. I like that.
All right. So, I don't know. Look, I mean, that was a pretty hilarious opening. So without much further ado, let's get to it. Segment 1, our main gamer experience stories. Tao is the only one with an item in the rundown tonight. And Tao, let's have you kick it off.
All right. Yeah. So I picked up, it's called The Bloodline on PC on Steam. Sounds like it might be a vampire game, but it's not. There might be vampires in it. I haven't seen any yet, but it's basically, well, it's an early access game. Actually, it's been on early access for almost a year now, actually, which I didn't realize. Since October 5th last year, 2023, from developer Shieldbearer, Studios. It's like I want to say open world. It's a sandbox kind of adventure RPG game, and so it's not, like I said, it's not open world. There's kind of an overworld map you can kind of go into, and you travel. You can pick like different places to travel, and if you want to, sometimes you can get involved with like they'll have like a zombie horde, or like I don't think they're called zombies, but it just says like a whole undead horde. I don't call them zombies. I guess people don't like to call those creatures zombies anymore. So undead horde or a goblin, camp or stuff like that. So you can do that stuff, or you can you just go through your regular quests as you normally would, just by talking to people, or there's like a main quest that you can follow. It seems like, but they're adding stuff pretty much, I guess, all the time. They actually just had an update before I picked it up this past week, a few days ago. So I think on the 17th or so, the 18th, where they added a bunch of new quests, a bunch of new areas, or like they have some areas where you can actually go into, but it'll actually tell you, like when you go into the area, it'll say like whatever castle or whatever town, and then like a parentheses or yeah, in parentheses, it'll say like, well, it's still being worked on, or under construction or something like that. So there's obviously some stuff that I can't do right now, or you can go into and it's just like kind of like a blank area. There's not even enemies or anything in them. Um, but it gives me a lot like Skyrim vibes, back in the day where you can follow the like I said, the main story that you're a prince who takes over this kingdom. Kind of a dark story, actually. The reason why I won't spoil that, but you're this prince trying to kind of your kingdom's there. You have a castle, um, but you're trying to, I guess, get like the respect of like your townspeople or the townspeople of your subjects and stuff back, because there's, like I said, there's some dark stuff that happened before that. But so you go on this adventure, try to bring back your kingdom into higher respect from everybody. So you start doing these quests and stuff, and you can as you're doing the main quest, of course, there's other people you can talk to. So it's kind of my mo, where I started like the first maybe like two or three um main quests that I've done, that actually gone through, and now I'm just kind of spiraling out of control into the side quests now, or just like I said, like you're in that overworld, you can kind of go to different places that are on the map, and stuff like that. So besides all that, just kind of the adventuring stuff, you can kind of do a little bit of, I guess, kingdom building. So you can build up like shops and different things outside of your castle. So it's kind of a little bit of a town builder, but it's in 3D, so it's not like it's an overhead view. So like I built a bakery, I believe was the first thing I built, which is like the easiest thing, kind of like the tutorial thing you can build. And then there's like all other kinds of things like armory and a blacksmith and all this other kind of stuff that you can start building. So I'm kind of going back and forth between doing tasks or doing quests, and then doing these, kind of building up my kingdom. But when you build up this stuff, you have to get materials, so you have to go out, and mine stuff and wood and excuse me, get all these other kind of, obviously materials and stuff to build this thing up. So it's kind of nice when you get all that stuff. It just builds it for you, so it's not like you have to place it, brick, or board by board. So it just does it for you. And then on the other side of things too, you can do a little bit, I guess, decorating, which I haven't really messed with too much. Like just to go through the tutorial kind of quest they had for it. I just put kind of a fencing down that kind of goes right before my castle, before like kind of the draw, or not the drawbridge, just kind of a bridge, over the moat that surrounds the castle. I just put some gates, some fencing down, just to kind of get through that quest. So I guess you can kind of go into that too. I don't know how specific or granular that gets into. Like, I don't know if you can, like, if eventually when I get all these buildings done, if I can move the buildings around, or if I can, do all this other stuff, or if I can make a building, brick by brick if I wanted to, or, whatever, be more specific. But, there's that kind of aspect to it too. So that's kind of cool. And then kind of there's a fighting system, obviously, because you can fight all these creatures. So, and this is first person. You're in first person mode when you're doing the fighting, and when you go into one of the areas, when you're not in the overworld map, because obviously the overworld map is just, you see a little character and isometric over the top view, and he's riding around or whatever he's doing. So, but once you go into an area, it goes to third person. You can do, I think you can flip it into a third person mode, but the even within the game, it tells you, it's like, well, it's not really optimized for third person right now. So, sometimes stuff won't work, or stuff's a little janky. So I pretty much keep it in first person right now. But you do melee attacks. They have like flint lock kind of guns. So they do have guns in here. Yeah, bows and arrows, and um, crossbows and stuff like that. So I think they just added staves, I believe, and kind of spears. So there's all kinds of things, all kinds of different weaponry you can use when you're fighting. And then they also have magic, which is actually pretty cool. They give you like a little bar on the bottom of the screen where you can have four or five different magic spells that you can you can get through like a skill tree and stuff like that. You have to obviously get points as you're leveling up. When you level up, you get points for that stuff. So you can spend it on different magic abilities and stuff like that. So there's, like I said, there's a 4 or 5 bar down there, and then you can actually hit control. I think it's left control or whatever, whatever you have it binded to. And then there's another roll that flips up, and then you have another set that you can pin into there with more magic or whatnot. So besides the magic too, down in that bar you can put different I guess like special attacks for whatever weapon you might be using at the time. So I started off with just like a regular sword, and it had like I think it was like a slash forward that you can do, which is actually obviously extra powerful. I had stuff from my shield where I can actually throw my shield, kind of like Captain America, and it come back to me. And obviously when you throw it and hit somebody, and then when it comes back to you, it actually, if there's anybody in the way, it'll hit them and cause them damage too, which I thought was pretty cool. So it's kind of nice. So you got abilities for your weapons. So you kind of have to I don't want to say balance, but you kind of have to want to think about what you have in that little bar at the bottom. Well, magic stuff, or if it's the ability stuff, or if you want to put spells for like healing and stuff like that. So it's you kind of have to screw around with that. But yeah, I'm having a pretty good time with it. Graphically, it's like a polygonal, 3D polygonal models. So at least the characters and even the kind of the environments too. The environments don't look too bad, but the characters are polygonal, so it's kind of those right angles and stuff like that. And like just kind of, I kind of think of it as, I don't know if you've ever played or ever seen totally. What is that one called? It's called Tabs, and I'm trying to remember what the Totally Awesome Battle Simulator or something like that. The characters kind of look like that as far as like graphically. So that kind of look, but it seems to work, and that might be why you can do all these different kind of magic tricks and stuff like that, and it looks really smooth for the most part. There's some weird some weirdness that I've seen when I'm playing. Obviously, since it's still early access, there's going to be bugs and stuff. So I've actually reported a couple of them on their Discord, just because I'm having such a fun time with this game. It's like, hey, I want this game to keep going and hopefully be fully released at some point. So I have actually reported that stuff. Uh, Nothing. There's some just like weirdness when I'm trying to do some of the mining and stuff. Like I'll get attacked all of a sudden, and it's happened a couple times now actually. So I'll be getting attacked as I'm chopping wood or mining a rock or whatever, and I'm trying to get out of it. And as I get out of it, and I'm still stuck in not so much the animation, but I guess just I still have like that tool in my hand, and I can't switch. Or even if I do switch, I can't like do anything. So it's just kind of weird stuff like that. But like I said, it's early access, so I'm assuming stuff's gonna happen like that. You can get mounts, and I guess you can get like just like little sidekick characters. I don't know if they actually help you or not, or if they're just kind of there, kind of like in, I don't know. I guess Diablo was. I think I could think of one where sometimes you have those characters and they just kind of follow you around. They don't really do anything for you. So, but I haven't got any sidekicks. I got a few mounts right now. I got this giant rabbit, which I got from a quest. I didn't even know I was going to get it. I just all of a sudden I saw it appear there. I was like, oh, yeah, that's kind of cool. It's kind of fast, and obviously it can jump like super high. So then I got a donkey, which they give you at the beginning, which is kind of cool. And then I found a broomstick, which you can fly. Uh, in Actually, these mounts you can use when you're in the 3D world, and I haven't seen any that you can fight yet with. You can fight on them, like when you're on them, you can fight, but the actual mounts don't fight. And then when you're in the overworld, they help you kind of get around the world a little bit faster. So that's kind of nice. So you're not just walking the whole time. But there was one ability I think that somebody gave me, or it's actually these coins or these objects they give you, so you can kind of do like a fast travel thing too. But it's like a limited thing, so I'm assuming either I can buy some later on or create them myself at some point. But this guy just, after one of the quests, I think it was after one of the main quests, he gave me like 3 of them. So I used one by mistake one time, just because the UI is a little janky too. So it's a little weird, but I just used one by mistake, and I opened like a portal. But I guess I thought maybe it was stay there for like forever, but it didn't. Like after I like left the area and came back, it was gone. So I was like, okay, I used one by mistake. So that's all right. So yeah. But yeah, just having a really good time with this so far, and I'm gonna be definitely be playing this coming the week coming up.
So, I mean, you mentioned that a large part of this game is the building aspect.
I wouldn't. It could be if you want to. That's one of the things they kind of tout in this game is like you can make this game whatever you want it to. Like if I want to just do the building stuff, I could just go out and and mine and chop wood and all day if I wanted to get all this material so I can build all these different uh buildings that you can build to help you out in the game. Or if I just wanted to fight and do that forever, I could do that. The one thing I guess that's one thing I forgot. So as you're going through the world, even if you're just running, jumping, like you're gaining experience points for that specific thing. So like I've been jumping a lot, just because that's what I do. Just jumping all over the place, and you do have a stamina meter, so that goes down eventually. So you see that. I guess kind of Breath of the Wild. That's kind of where it kind of became popular with the stamina meter and stuff like that. Or every time you jump, you can climb on stuff. Most everything. I don't think there's only certain things I haven't been able to climb, and that's been some of the buildings. Um, I don't know if that was because it's just not built into the game yet, or that you just can't climb it for some reason. So, but you'll gain like I'm like level I don't even know 15 or 16 like jumping ability, and I think about the same for running, and stuff like that. So you're always gaining experience for everything you're doing. So that's another thing. Like if I just want to focus on sword play and just do like a short sword, I can just do that. Just use that forever, and my experience will go up. And then you can use those. That's where you get the sorry, I was saying before when you level up, but as you're leveling up those abilities, that's where you get the experience points to put into like different abilities that you can gain later on for that specific thing.
Is this open world?
Open worldish, like like when you're in the overworld, if you drop into an area, it's just like a big kind of a big area that they drop you into. So you can't just like if there's like a mine area and like a desert, you can't just walk from one to the other, because eventually, as you're walking, when you're in the 3D world, when you're walking, it'll say, "Hey, do you want to leave this area?" So when you do that, then it switches over to the overworld. So kind of big areas, big open areas.
Okay. Yeah, so this game came out, well, it at least launched into early access last year, October of 2023. Reviews are mostly positive on Steam right now, down
Yeah,
a bit from very positive overall. Um,
yeah. Seems to have a pretty good community
yeah,
too. Like I've seen a lot of help in the discords and stuff. So when something happens, or you're trying to figure out a quest, so it's pretty nice. And only single player. So yeah.
yeah, very cool, very cool. So wait, so you said only single player, so no co-op or anything available in the game?
No, yeah, there's nothing right now. I haven't seen anything that they're going to add it later on, but I could see where it could be because, like I said, it's there. Since it's not open world, I figured it'd be a little bit easier to throw co-op or something in there. I think there might be PvP areas at some point. I don't know if they've implemented that yet though, so we'll see. Yeah, it was kind of weird because like this kind of just came up. Um, I think on my just when you go into Steam into the store, you have that first little uh tile where you can kind of just like flip through games. I think it's more like a recommended tile, and that just kind of popped up. So I was like, oh, this looks interesting. So yeah, kind of how I've been. I had the tags that I put in there for RPGs and sandbox and action adventure. So clicked all the boxes. Steam knows me, I guess.
All right, very cool. So with that, let's go on to segment two, the main news headlines discussion for tonight. And Tao, you are also once again up first.
Oh yes. Okay. Speaking of doing magic. So this goes. We're going to talk about a game called Spellbreak here, which came out, I believe, 2020 originally. It was a kind of magic-based battle royal game. Excuse me. Where you just had different magic powers, fire, ice, poison, stuff like that. It was around for a couple years, and then the company actually got bought by Activision, and they kind of got folded into. Or they got bought by Blizzard, Activision, and they got kind of folded into the World of Warcraft team. And when that happened in 2022, I think in mid 2022, they had stopped development on Spellbreak because obviously they were probably just going to be, trolling away at World of Warcraft for the rest of their lives. Maybe one day they'll get to do something else. But in this article, they had mentioned here that the studio Proletariant, I think is how you say, or Tarrant. I I don't know how you actually pronounce the old studio. Before they had totally gone out, or even maybe it just been like a few years ago or a year or so ago, they actually released a version of it, an offline version. Well, I should say offline version, a standalone version where people can take it and then they can set up their own servers for people to play. So that, and I guess it's been getting a bit of a resurgence as of this year. I guess there's been a lot of chatter about supposedly like a lot of the I'm gonna say big news sites, websites out there, the gaming sites have been covering how there's been a lot of kind of hubbaloo about this game again. I don't know how big that is because I haven't really seen any other reports other than this one. And this one is from massivelyop.com. That's where I got this article. So yeah, they're just talking about how they had announced and released this mode for people to play around with and be able to play again since obviously it's down. I think the other big game, and I was pretty big into this game when it first came out too, and just like just like in Knockout City, like I'd stopped playing for a little while, and just as I was coming back in, boom, they announced that it was going to be discontinued, or development was stopping, and they're not going to develop the game anymore. So I was kind of sad. But it was pretty cool though. I really liked this game. It was something different. Instead of just guns and stuff like Warzone and Fortnite and stuff like that. He had the magic based abilities, and you could fly around and jump around and stuff like that. I think if I remember correctly, he had like a stamina meter, so you couldn't obviously fly around forever, but it was kind of cool that everybody had that ability at least, and kind of reminded me. And I think I mentioned this when it first came out. It kind of reminded me of a mod from might have been one of the old Call of Duties of it was a Dragon Ball Z mod that someone had created where you're actually able to fly around and fight people and stuff like that. So that's why I think I kind of gravitated toward it because it reminded me a lot of that. So it was kind of cool, but it's kind of nice to see that they did that. Kind of surprising though too. So after they had got, at least to me, after they had got bought by Activision Blizzard, that they're I guess allowed to do that. Like I mean, you figured they'd have the IP, they would own the IP at that point, and that they wouldn't want to do anything like that. But I don't know, maybe that was part of the contract or something, or who knows? Maybe they just kind of did it. So it's kind of cool. And this we've kind of heard this thing too with was it the Crew 2? And I think Motorfest also was kind of doing an offline mode that they were trying to put in there. So it's kind of cool that at least some companies.
Just the Crew 2 and maybe the Crew 1, because Crew Motorfest is the new one.
That's the newest one. Okay. All right. So yeah. So that these companies are at least doing that. And I think Knockout City had done that too before they went offline, I believe. So it's kind of cool that they're doing that. So it's kind of nice for, game preservation and that kind of thing, but also to let people play again. So I don't know. Maybe I'll download it and see if I can find any servers out there. We'll see.
So are there bots in this game? Because I wonder about, like, you're going to put it out on a standalone free version server without Blizzard's backing. I mean, I can't believe that the uptake, right, within the player base is that large enough to make it a sustainable battle royale. I mean, so it would be good if they would fill it in with bots.
Yeah, I think the original game didn't have bots as far as I know, and I'm not sure. It doesn't mention, at least in this article, if you can do bots or not. So yeah, I'm not sure about that. Because I mean, the maps are fairly large. So I mean, I don't think as big as Fortnite or anything like that, but it was still fairly big. So I don't know. Maybe you can. Well, I mean, you can always, I suppose, mess with the settings too, since you control the server at that point, and maybe make it the storm a little smaller or something like that at the start or whatever. So, but yeah, in the article here it doesn't tell you.
Yeah, all those could be definite possibilities. But your second news story is one game that probably isn't suffering from the size of its player base right now. You want to go on and tell us about your other multiplayer game here?
Yeah, and not now, but maybe soon, at least the online portion. So this is from thegamer.com. And this is talking about a game I talked about last week, Marvel vs. Capcom Collection. So, you had the different, Marvel superheroes, X-Men Children of the Atom, Marvel vs. Capcom, excuse me, 1 and 2. You had those games. And obviously they've, I think even the original ones, when they came to the consoles, they can't, they have online versions. There's one Mr. Justin Wong, though. Has been jumping onto the online section. And if you don't know who Justin Wong was, he was a big Street Fighter, Capcom, fighting game guy back in the day, and I'm assuming still now. I don't know if he's still competes in like tournaments and stuff and Evo and anything like that. But he's been jumping online and going through the leaderboards and just pretty much decimating everybody. A couple of posts here that he has from X or Twitter. So he Marvel 2, Marvel vs. Capcom 2 on the PS4. I'm surprised they have it on PS4. Well, I guess I'm not surprised they have it on PS4, but I didn't realize. I guess it was on PS4. He's the top. He's top on the leaderboards, and then he's talking in that same post that he's gonna jump over the Switch and start on those leaderboards. And then in between those two, he's top on the Steam leaderboard charts too. So a PC leaderboard charts. So just kind of goofy article I saw out there. I just thought it was kind of cool that that someone a lot of times too, like people were talking about these big high profile people on different not just fighting game, but anything tournaments. And I'm like, I don't know who that is. But this time I just happen to know who Justin Wong is because I remember, back in the day, hearing about him at the different tournaments and stuff. So I just thought it was kind of cool. And it has a short clip here, him playing, just playing somebody online. He's playing Jill from Resident Evil. And he just absolutely dominates this guy, or at least the first player that this, because you pick like 3 people in Marvel vs. Capcom 2. The first guy, he just absolutely dominates. Doesn't even get a hit on him. So it's just, I can imagine trying to play against that guy online, even online. So it's just kind of crazy. But yeah, I just thought it was kind of cool.
All right, very cool. Yeah, and I'm the same way. Like when players are playing at Evo and like there's video coverage of it, YouTube coverage of it. I'm like, I have no idea like who these people are. But it's they're definitely well known in that circle, right? When I listen to other podcasts, they can call those guys out by name. So yeah, it's and I'm assuming that the Justin Wong thing online. I thought a big part of like the causality behind this is because there is no notion of like brackets or rankings or like SBMM in this game when you're playing it online.
Yeah, I think it's just like a straight leaderboard, like as you win, you just kind of go up like a main leaderboard for that system. It looks like. So yeah, I don't think there's any kind of matchmaking or anything that I know of. I'll have to check into that.
Okay, very cool. Gotcha. Our next news story in the rundown. This story over on hothardware.com. Microsoft Flight Simulator 2024's ideal specs revealed. Bring a boatload of RAM. So this news story by Paul Lilly. Oh, really? So Paul's over at Hot Hardware, huh? So if he's the same Paul Lilly, it's the guy who was over at Maximum PC. In just 2 months from now, Microsoft Flight Simulator 2024 will take flight on Windows PCs and Xbox Series X and S game consoles. For those who intend to pilot the gamer on the former platform. I think that means game. For those who intend to pilot the game on the former platform, Windows PC, we now know what kind of hardware you'll need for your gaming cockpit. The minimum specifications are pretty tame by today's standards, and even the recommended specs are decidedly mid-range. The ideal specs, however, call for burlier hardware, including a whole bunch of RAM. We'll get to that in a moment, but first let's have a look at the minimum specification. So I'm going to buy past that. I'm actually going to try and, although I always screw this up, I'm going to try and bring this up on the screen. And yeah, there you go. So you can see the specs there. We'll just go straight to the ideal specification. So for AMD platforms, you need a Ryzen 7 7900X for the CPU. For Intel, you need an Intel i7 14700K. So a Raptor Lake processor. For GPU, you need a 7900 XT on the AMD side. And for NVIDIA, you need an RTX 4080. Now, the recommended specs drop all the way down to an RTX 4080 and a 5700 XT, so it goes back 2 generations on the recommended spec. And then for Intel CPU, you need a 10700K and a 2700X. So again, going back on the AMD side, going back actually 3 generations, right? Because there were 2000, 3000, and 5000 series CPUs for AMD. So for recommended spec, it seems like you absolutely reasonable hardware, and then you have a ton of headroom to be above recommended, but still not achieve ideal. So you should be able to have lots of different hardware sets that get you pretty close to ideal. And then the RAM, 32 gigabytes on the recommended and 64 on ideal. I don't think that the 32 should be. Anybody who's running like a mid-range rig should definitely be. I would expect would be at 32 gigabytes of RAM. Not a whole ton of people run at 64, and the reason for that isn't even necessarily that people can't. It's that there's so much thought in the space that 64 gigabytes is unnecessary for a gaming PC. I, this PC has 64 gigabytes. I try and run at 64 gigabytes all the time. I have a couple rigs that only run at 32, and those are generally, one because it started off as a pre-built CyberPower PC, and it has 4 slots, and they gave me 8 gigabyte sticks of RAM. So like when I wanted to bump, I was like, well, I'm not getting rid of the 2 8 gig sticks that they gave me. I'm just going to throw 2 more 8 gig sticks on there and take it to 32. On the other one, I actually had stability problems with that one that I attributed to heat, but I'm just not absolutely certain that, because you do have motherboards that will, get wonky and unstable when all 4 DIMM slots are populated. That doesn't happen often, but when you do have system instability, they tell you that is one of the things to look at, is to pull DIMM sticks until the system seems to settle out. So, sorry, I wanted to adjust the position of my mic here. So with that one, I bought 2 sticks of 16 gig RAM to bump it to 32, but then I was like, I'm not gonna. And I think that box, I think the max single stick that it will take is a 16 gig stick. So I didn't want to push that one. But generally, I target trying to run with 64 all the time. So I do have 1 box, maybe 2 that will run at the ideal spec. But I don't expect too many people have rigs who will run at ideal, specifically because they won't have, I think there's plenty of people who have the CPUs. I think there are plenty of people who actually have an RTX 4080 or 4090. But I just don't think a ton of people run with 64 gigabytes of RAM. So, Tao, I know you have toe dipped into Microsoft Flight Simulator. Are you planning on playing on Xbox or on PC when the expansion drops in November?
Well, I'm good for recommended, I guess, for PC. I do have 32 gigs, and I do have the Intel Core i7 10700. So good there. Yeah, I can't go above that probably. So I'll probably try it on both, to be honest with you, just because I'll be able to compare them on PC and then Xbox Series X. So I'll probably give it a whirl on both. But yeah, so we'll see. At least I got the recommended specs. I'm in the middle there.
Yeah, so of course, I mean, I'm referring to it as an expansion. The indication is still that this is a new game, not a DLC update. I still question how it's going to be delivered, like, because they're still calling it Microsoft Flight Simulator. Well, I guess they're calling this 2024. So, um, will this be a 50, 60, $70 game when it lands? I'm not sure. I actually haven't looked for this on pre-order. I guess I should take a look at that. Um, it hasn't. Well, yeah, like I said, it says that it's a standalone game. So I guess there it is. I am looking very much forward to this. I'm hopefully, lining myself up to spend more time with flight simulators. I did kind of pull this back out earlier in the year to spend some time with it, but yeah, looking forward to the November release. We'll just have to. I assume it's going to stick the landing. There should be no way that it doesn't, because it's just using the same engine, so it should just be some spit and polish. The main thing, I don't expect there to be any graphical upgrades. I expect there to just be this instantiation of the new career mode, right, via campaign. So hopefully it will do fine. But it is a burly ask to 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 run at the ideal spec.
So standard edition is $70. I just looked it up on Xbox.com. So
Okay. Yeah. Well, there you go. Next story in our rundown is expanded Steam gaming compatibility. Why? I don't know. That's weird. I don't know if they changed the title on this news story. Originally, when I pulled this news story today, I was pretty sure it said Steam likely coming to ARM chips with support for hundreds of Windows games. Valve testing ARM64 Proton compatibility layer. Now it says expanded Steam gaming compatibility likely coming to ARM chips with hundreds of Windows games. Valve testing ARM64 Proton compatibility. So there are some slight differences. I don't know why. At any rate, this news story over on Tom's Hardware by Christopher Harper. On September 20th, Valve pushed changes to a test application visible on SteamDB, indicating a massive list of games being tested with its Proton compatibility layer. Interestingly, there now also seems to be an ARM64 version of Proton, which exists to make Windows games playable on Linux. This version of Proton ARM64 EC-4, is listed as being tested with literal hundreds of games. But popular titles like Left 4 Dead 2 and Shadows of Mordor stick out here, showing a wide range of possibilities that ARM64 Proton behind the scenes. So what this article is primarily speculating about is whether or not Steam, now that you've had the launch of the Snapdragon Elite X processors as part of the Surface line, and I think you see, I can't remember if you see, I know Copilot is becoming available now on more laptops that are based on Intel chipsets. I want to say that there are more Snapdragon laptops coming out. I could be wrong. But that's the speculation, is that Valve is getting ready to roll out the capability to play games on ARM via the Proton compatibility layer. So this obviously could push the proliferation of PC gaming. Unfortunately, what it doesn't do for the industry is it doesn't make available less expensive gaming, because those Surface laptops with the Snapdragon chips and the Snapdragon Elite X chips are not cheap, and they also tend to come with very stingy amounts of RAM. We just got done talking about, Microsoft Flight Simulator 2024, which is asking you to have 64 gigs to run the game at its ideal, 32 gigs. And actually, I've been playing around with some of those laptops, trying to configure them, bouncing that against like a MacBook Pro. And like, quite frankly, just some of, the MacBook Pro scales to be incredibly expensive, but it does have, options that go up to fairly lofty heights with regards to RAM. Whereas the Surface line with their Snapdragon processors, like they top out. Like I think maybe there's a 32 gig SKU, but I'm not even sure if that SKU is available on both lines. So there are some limitations there. It's great that they're talking about making it available on ARM. Now, normally when these things happen, what I've said, and we had a report a few months ago that Google was making Chrome run on ARM. And at that point, I was like, okay, what that tells me is that Google has talked to Microsoft, and Microsoft has let them know that there's going to be a bigger push to run Windows on ARM. And specifically, it was Google making Chrome on Windows, making a Chrome on ARM on Windows version of the Chrome browser. And that told me that, okay, so apparently Google is hearing from Microsoft that there's going to be a bigger push, and that if they want to be in the game, they need to make Chrome, compatible. Valve leaning forward and doing this tells me that Valve has heard something from Microsoft that this thing is going to go bigger. So, hopefully, again, I think Snapdragon Elite processors are rolling out on other vendor laptops besides the Surface. If not, I certainly would hope that they would be. And that we're going to see more of these Snapdragon laptops available from multiple vendors. Like I said, the problem is that they're not cheap, and even the ones that Microsoft is putting out now don't have dedicated. I think some of them maybe have ARC GPUs, but if I'm buying a gaming laptop that runs on ARM, I would want to be able to pair it. Well, first of all, I'd want to be able to pair it with whatever I want. I wouldn't want the only option to be ARC, and so. Hopefully, theoretically, what the reason Valve is doing this is because they're hearing from the industry that, gaming laptops on ARM are going to start rolling out in larger numbers. But it also makes it interesting in that this may be perhaps for an impending number of handhelds that are based on ARM. Right now, if I'm not mistaken, I don't know that any like top tier handhelds are based on ARM. I'm sure that there are some retro consoles that are based on ARM. But I think all of your mainstream ones that run Windows are all based on Intel processors, or Intel or AMD processors, on the x86 architecture. So again, having these things available on ARM. Now on a mobile handset, ARM may make handsets less expensive, potentially. So it'll be interesting to see. I think this article also notes that there's also evidence of Steam on Android on ARM. I think I saw that in the article. I'm not absolutely sure.
Yeah, kind of further down they were talking about that.
Sure. Yeah, there are also some mentions of Wavedroid, which means even Android ARM devices may be getting Proton support, which would surely expand its audience significantly. Now that would be huge if we're going to get to a point where through Proton you can have an Android device that runs Steam. I'm not sure exactly how far that compatibility goes. I would not, being super optimistic, you would, fantasize that would mean playing PC games on your phone. I don't know that it takes it that far. I don't know that Wavedroid, I'd have to dig into this a little more. I don't know that Wavedroid is a specific version of an operating system branching off of AOSP, so I'd have to see. But at any rate, all of these things sound exciting, so we'll just have to kind of see where it comes to fruition. Typically, what we've seen over the last few years is that when we hear little drips and drabs of this, that eventually they do wind up being realized quite frequently as something new in the gaming space. So I will keep an eye on it and see if it goes anywhere. Tao, any comments or questions?
No, I was trying to look up real quick to see if I could find any handhelds that had ARM, but it doesn't. As far as I can tell, real quick, I didn't see any major ones at least.
Yeah, that's why I figured that there would be little, like, Eastern Asian, not knockoffs, but just like really rare, handhelds that in general aren't sold in the U.S. And aren't supported. So you would be, on your own trying to make those things work. So yeah, we'll just see where it goes. Tao, talking about small games, even though actually talking about a game that actually runs on a platform that is on ARM. You have the company behind that game partnering with a platform owner to go after someone who may have infringed on their IP.
Yes, my favorite kind of stories, the legal stories here. I almost had two tonight, but the other one I didn't get a chance to look up. But the one I'm going to talk about here tonight is Nintendo, Pokemon Company, has finally filed a lawsuit against Pocket Pair, makers of Palworld. And if you don't know what Palworld is or don't remember, it's that basically Pokemon with guns. So, and they don't specifically say what the patent is, or I should say the patent. They don't specifically say what they're going after. They just kind of say that they infringed on some patents. That is plural, so it's more than one. Um, and that they filed a lawsuit, and this is in actually in Japan. So laws might be different over there than here. I've been kind of trolling around the internet, just kind of trying to read up on things, and it seems like this is pretty common practice there and actually over here too. So I mean, it doesn't really matter that where people are filing lawsuits against other companies for obviously different patents that they've done. From what some speculation that I've seen online is that this could be, or at least one of the patents could be for one that they did that the Nintendo filed or the Pokemon Company filed a couple years ago or so, 2 or 3 years ago, and it's kind of specific to Pokemon Legends Arceus, which was 2 or 3 games ago. It's kind of the open world, one of the first open world Pokemon games that they had created, and that was the one where you actually, the main character had traveled back in time, and it was kind of like in the beginnings of like people. I want to say finding Pokemon, because obviously Pokemon have always been in this world, but I guess just starting to capture Pokemon, and kind of, and tame them, I guess, or to do stuff for people. So it's oddly specific, and I guess that could be possible because the patent itself, and I don't remember specifically, but it was something to do with capturing. And I think it just said like creatures or something in like an open field environment or something like that. And
Yeah, so
obviously,
it was a patent for Pokeballs, essentially,
yeah,
but
yeah,
specifically Pokeballs in their use for capture in an open field environment. So it was specific to, I guess in the past, and you're the Pokemon expert, so I'm making
Mm.
this comment and hoping that you can correct me if I'm wrong. But
Sure.
in the past, you were only able to capture Pokemon like in the course of a fight, but because I guess Arceus is open world, it was an adaptation of the previous Pokeball implementation to allow you to capture them like in an open field. Now, Palworld uses a thing called Pal Spheres, which, look, I'm not going to bother describing it because literally, if you go look at it, and again, people are out there playing Palworld. I haven't played Palworld. You're welcome to correct me if you feel I'm wrong. But as far as everything that I've read, they literally function exactly like a Pokeball. So does it Arceus. So I mean, there's lots of analysts. There are some analysts who have said, well, Nintendo doesn't have a leg to stand on. I look, reading the things that I've read simply about the facts of the case and like not paying attention to anything that any analyst has said. Like when I read those two descriptions, I'm like, if I were a judge, like these things look like virtually exactly the same to me.
Yeah, I mean, you get down to the just obviously the aesthetics of things, like obviously Pokeball. And I'm trying to remember back in Arceus. It's been a while since I played that game. If it was, if they look like regular Pokeballs, or if it looked like something different, obviously, because this is like a prototype ball that these people are using back in Arceus. So in Pal World, it's a sphere, but it has like all these like kind of jagged like edges and stuff, and decorations and stuff coming off of it. So it's a little bit different looking than like a regular Pokeball. But I'm trying to remember in Arceus. I'll have to go back. I could probably do a quick Google search or something, but and how those looked. But it's not obviously, and it's obviously not so much the look, but the actual mechanics of it. And I mean, yeah, but I mean, you could say that with other games too, that they've never kind of gone after people. And I don't know. It just seems kind of weird that they're kind of doing it now. And I don't know. Like I said, that's just one of them that they're speculating on. Like we don't know for sure. They haven't did it, like I said, in the article and other articles I've tried to look up and stuff like that. I don't know if like, and I can't read Japanese writing. Maybe, it's out there somewhere on the internet, like what the actual, lawsuit is about, specifically. But and then even like Pocket Pair in kind of their response was like, yeah, we've been, served this, but we're still not sure, which is kind of weird. Like they don't even know. Like that seems a little odd. I don't know, but uh in the response that they weren't even sure yet. They didn't know specifics basically. And maybe that was just, and this is just like a Discord person, that was saying this. It was their probably community manager or whatever. So yeah, they might not have, their inner workings of it, but I'm assuming somebody at the company probably knows at least by now, like what's going on and what the specifics are. But nothing's out there at least right now. So we're still waiting on that.
Yeah, I actually don't think they do. I mean, the official statement from Pocket Pair, which came out like the day after the suit was filed, was that they had not yet been informed by Nintendo which specific patent it was that they were being accused of treading on. And so you mentioned a few things like in the course of your brief out, right? That you talked about the aesthetics, you talked about um, Nintendo not having defended this before, and then the mechanics. So I want to talk about like each of those three things. So the aesthetics, like you're absolutely right. Like it's more about the mechanics than the aesthetics. If this were about the aesthetics, and I'm going to loop back to this a little bit, that would be more about them going after them for copyright. And this is specifically not a copyright suit. In fact, I was talking to friends, as this thing was going down, and I was like, it's really weird to me that this is not a patent suit. Like, what the heck is that? And then, like in the days since then, in particular, one author over at PC Gamer picked up on the notion on the fact that, well, here's this patent that they filed with Pokemon Arceus that, like, looks exactly like this other implementation, and and yeah, it's very much whatever Nintendo is going after them for, it is a matter of their technical implementation of it in the game, not the aesthetic. Now, there is speculation out there that says the reason so first of all, copyright is much more difficult to make stick than a patent infringement is. Um, and a patent infringement, as far as I know, and I may have forgotten because I tracked a lot of the Apple Samsung lawsuit when that happened, but that's what, like over a decade ago now. Um, but as far as I know, I don't. As far as I remember, a judge cannot overturn a patent. A judge can be unhappy that a patent seems like incredibly lightweight or frivolous, or should have never gotten through the patent office. But like they can't do anything about it. Like they just have to enforce the law. And then afterwards, after the fact, like the other company can go after the can file a different lawsuit to try and overturn the patent. Um, but part of the speculation out there is that because copyright is so much more difficult to make stick, Nintendo deliberately went after them for patent infringement. And then if Nintendo is successful in going after them for patent infringement, that will then have set a precedent where there is proof of an intent to infringe, to copy, to imitate their work. And then perhaps then they can go after them for copyright because they will have previously established that there was an intent. So we'll see how that goes. The thing you mentioned about trademark, in this case, when I say trademark, with trademark, there's the notion that, in fact, this is how the Flappy Bird clone that we haven't talked about, but is also in the news cycle, got out into the wild. Is that Don? Is it Don Yoon? I can't remember what the developer's name is, but he basically didn't protect the trademark, right? The trademark was abandoned, and so after a period of time, the people who wanted to pull their crypto NFT scheme for Flappy Bird, went to the IP troll who had picked up the copyright or whatever, or the trademark for Flappy Bird, and were able to pay them for it and get it away from them because the trademark wasn't being defended. And so, in trademark law, there's the notion that you have to actively defend and hopefully and typically put to some type of use the trademark, but at a minimum absolutely defend it, and defend infringements on it. And if you don't, then after a certain period of time, it's considered basically up for grabs. And so because it's a patent lawsuit, there's no notion of that here. And obviously Nintendo defends any notion of its trademarks quite frequently and vigorously. So, we'll see how this thing turns out. But yeah, it's super interesting. I think there's a lot of thought out in the space that like Nintendo or any company waits until the person they're going to go after makes a certain amount of money, and then it's okay, well, now let's torpedo them because I've never personally bought into that myself. I mean, maybe that's a play, but I think far more often is the case that there's time and research, that unfortunately some intern has to do, burning the midnight candle to pull all this stuff together. But I mean, really, quite honestly, the lead legal counsel in the case, until they get to a point where they're satisfied that there's an acceptable amount of risk to go after them. And quite frankly, I just think since that announcement got made back in February, I think by the Pokemon company, that said we're going to vigorously defend our IP, quite honestly, I personally think it's just taken them that much time to get a case together that they felt locked tight. Let's also remember executives, it's one of the things that we talk about. You put something on somebody's desk and it takes you a while to get an answer back, right? So, it's probably taken just this much time to unfurl the red tape. So, I don't know. We will see how it goes. Any other comments, Tal?
No, I was just gonna say, yeah, I saw a lot about that. I was like, oh, why are they doing it now? After so many months. It's yeah, it takes a long time. being in the business world too. I've seen that too. Just in the whole company I've worked for in the past. It's they have to build a pretty tight case, especially with something like this. I would think, if they're going for patent infringements, they want to have their T's crossed and the I's dotted to make sure they have a good case. On the flip side too, though, I mean. This game had. I was trying to look for it too while you were talking, but I'm pretty sure this game was an early. Well, it still technically is an early access. It was more like an alpha or beta access before the early access release. It's kind of weird. So I mean, and obviously it was announced, what was it, 2021, I think it was originally announced. I think the first trailer was shown. And and like I said, I couldn't find it, but I'm pretty sure there was a or a alpha beta release or play tests, sometime last year. And you would have figured, they would have seen something back then too, like, hey, uh, you know, putting all the similarities to the Pokemon aside, if it was totally for this mechanic, like you would have thought maybe they would have done it a little bit earlier, or even like cut them off at the pass before they even did the early access. So I don't know. It just seems kind of weird sometimes. I guess how these things play out, and when stuff like this happens. So I don't know. I just thought it's kind of weird.
Yeah, and when I say I haven't like gone full over in believing like the conspiracy theory that like, oh, they're just waiting to torpedo them, like I I don't believe it entirely as far as associating it with that malicious intent, but I'm not taking that 100% off the table. Like my feeling is there's some part of that dynamic mixing it, like there's some notion that like it's got to be worthwhile, right, to mount up the legal effort to go after them. I don't, I just don't believe that it's like, oh, let's, Dirk Dastardly is sitting there twiddling his thumbs, right, twirling his mustache, like watching the cash register mount up until it hits a certain number, and then he pushes a red button and sends the legal team into action. Like you said, I think it takes just, I think they hit tripwires right when it becomes a big enough deal, but then when they go after them, it just takes a while to pull the case together.
Yeah, I think the other thing too is, especially one with like with this Pocket Pair, they're an indie developer, like they're not a huge developer. More than likely, if they see something where it's like, oh, maybe we, my bad guys, like something like that, they might just like pay out, because I think that's ultimately what's going to happen is that they're just looking for I don't want to say a buyout, like a payout for I forget how they word it.
Well,
In the actual legal proceedings, but they're just looking for payment back for damages, from using these patents or whatever.
well,
And that's what my
it'll be interesting to see, like, so I would say that normally what the company wants, the suing company wants, is they will typically wrangle and until they get to a point where they get some type of royalty arrangement where Pocket Pair would pay Nintendo, right, some percentage, right, for perpetuity, right. But this case is different in terms of I feel like Nintendo, like there is no such thing as, I mean, so Nintendo's going after them for the patent, but what Nintendo is really pissed about is the copyright. What Nintendo's really pissed about is the fact that they look like Pokemon. Legalistically, they're going after them for the patent because they feel like that's the prudent thing to do. But what they're really wrapped around the axle is about is, and so I don't know that there's a. I feel like my speculation is I don't think there's a point where they go, yeah, you're bad. Go ahead and use the Pokemon designs. Just pay us a certain percentage. I don't think like it's going to go that way. Now, with the go back to the patent. The patent is very easy to unfurl, right? Um, and Apple and Samsung went right round and round about this. So the example that I've thrown out is Apple went after One of the things Apple went after Samsung for was, geez, it was for the bouncing at the bottom of the browser, right? Remember on the iPhone, there used to be this little elastic bounce when you got down to the bottom of a web page, in Safari, and the Samsung browser did the same thing, and Apple went after them for that. So Samsung said, "Fine, we'll remove the bounce." And so now, when you get down to the bottom of the browser on Android, it just stops, right? So you can do a very small tweak to get around a patent. You still wind up paying them money, right? But then you can make a tweak in your implementation and then no longer be guilty of patent infringement. But if Nintendo's really angry about the Pokemon designs, the way I think it'll go is I think it'll go, hey, you're infringing on our patent. Roger that. We'll pay you out for the use of your patent up until now, and then we're going to make this tweak, and we'll no longer be guilty of patent infringement. Now, normally, right, in order to, you make that tweak because the person suing is It's a word I want to use. That there's nothing they're willing to negotiate, right? If they were willing to negotiate, then you could make a licensing deal, right? And we see this in the terms of like the back and forth with Qualcomm and ARM, and the modems. Like Qualcomm Qualcomm went after Apple because there was a year that they used Intel modems because they weren't happy with the Qualcomm modems, or Qualcomm couldn't make the quotas. But then Qualcomm went after Apple because the Intel modems they claimed infringed on Qualcomm patents, and Qualcomm has an incredibly large patent portfolio. Um, and so I think somewhere between Apple and Intel, that was an instance where they made a licensing deal, right? Because they're like, well, we're not going to stop using the Intel modems, right, in this line of phone, but we'll pay you some percentage for so-called infringing on your patents. I don't think that type of amicable right agreement they're gonna arrive at that. So then, the only way they could come to that is Nintendo would say, "Hey, thanks for tweaking your Pokeball implementation. Now I want you to stop using my designs, and I don't want them to look like Pokemon." Right? That's where I feel like things are going to fall out, and people aren't going to come to agreements, and that's where Nintendo's going to go, "Okay, bam." Now I've proven that you had an intent to copy my designs and my IP. Now I'm going after you for copyright because I have this piece of paper that says you had a blatant and willful intent, right, to infringe. So, like I said, we'll see where that goes. Warwana showing up in the chat. Thank you very much. I want to say it looked like there was somebody else in the chat, but I think that's just YouTube acting up. Let's go ahead and go on to segment 3, our regular rundown and round robin, cleaning up the rest of the games we've been playing. So, Tao, you once again are first on the mic.
Yeah, so a couple games real quick. One, because of all the Palworld talk, and just because, I don't know, maybe I had a premonition something was going to go on because I had a hankering for playing Palworld the last couple weeks. I did play Palworld this past week for a few days before I jumped into the Bloodlines. So yeah, I just jumped back in there. I was kind of tooling around in my world, kind of, getting familiar with the mechanics again, and just fooling around and trying to get the different pals captured and stuff like that. So I was doing that. And then the second one I'll talk about here is Arcade Paradise, kind of a arcade simulator maybe, or arcade builder simulator, which I play through xCloud, through Xbox Game Pass. And it's basically it's kind of first person game where you're kind of building up this arcade. There's kind of a story behind it though. Like you're this I think you're a girl actually, maybe, or you're a child of this guy who gives you a laundromat to like take care of. Basically, he's trying to, I guess, teach you business sense or whatever. You're kind of fresh out of college, or maybe not, or dropped out of college or something like that. So you have to take care of this laundromat, but in the back of the laundromat, there's like arcade games, and that's kind of the real purpose of what you're trying to do, is trying to build up this arcade and like show your dad. It's like, hey, laundromat's fine. I'm going to build up this arcade because people like arcades. People are going to come to our laundromat, sure, for laundry, but they're going to spend more money with arcades. So that's what you're trying to do. So in between trying to purchase game cabinets and build up this arcade that you have going, you're just kind of doing menial tasks in the laundromat, actually washing, which is kind of weird because you're like washing people's laundry, which I've never been to a laundromat where the person that owns it or works there is actually doing the laundry, but you're doing the laundry, you're cleaning up. It's kind of like these goofy simulators that you kind of see in Steam, like gym owner simulator and stuff like that. You're kind of doing these menial tasks, but on the back end, you got these arcade cabinets that like I said, you're trying to set up and stuff like that. But you could actually play the games in these arcade cabinets, and they're actually kind of like old school, like Atari-esque, SNES type of games, so that you can, and they're kind of like knockoffs. Like they have like a Pac-Man one but you're in a car, you drive around the city trying to get away from cops and stuff like that. So just kind of goofy games like that. That's kind of cool that they have these old school games with a little bit of kind of, I guess, new technology sheen to it too. So that one I was explaining, the car Pac-Man game, even though it has that concept, it's more of kind of 3D-ish, kind of isometric view, so it's a little bit different. So it's a little bit upgraded from old Pac-Man. So kind of a just kind of a chill game that you can jump into and play these little games and kind of do these other things. So I was kind of tooling around with that this past week. So might jump into that a little bit more this coming week also.
Okay. And I'm sorry, did you cover Palworld, or do you still have more to report out on
Yeah,
that?
no, I did that one first. Sorry, I kind of flipped what I had in the rundown. Sorry.
Okay.
Yeah, I just jumped into that.
Okay, very cool. Yeah, the only thing that I've been playing, and the reason I didn't have any major report out is because, like I said, like I announced last week, I am in the process of transitioning to being a PC gamer only. So I've since I've since traded in the Nintendo Switch OLED and mailed and shipped out the PlayStation 5. Right now, working on packing up the Nintendo Switch LCD, and then I've just got the Xbox to get rid of. But everything's been broken down for like a week, so I've only been playing on PC. But Season 6 of Call of Duty Modern Warfare 3 dropped this Wednesday, and it has been double XP since it dropped all the way through this weekend. So, needless to say, that's all I've been playing because I got to get as much done as I can during double XP. And so I've knocked out a little less than a third of the Season 6 Battle Pass. So, pretty much just been playing the regular modes. I did play some Horde mode today, although I was enamored with that when it first appeared, I think last season. I don't know that I'm going to stick with that mode in my rotation because at least today I was playing with a battle rifle, and it's just like you don't see the opposing team. I just see them through like a sea of zombies. So it's like either I may play the mode, but just not use a battle rifle because with a battle rifle, you're scoped in like the whole time. So we'll see how that goes. But otherwise, I've been having a pretty decent time with it. No new maps that really have jumped out at me. I guess this season you have the gas station, which is just not one of my favorite maps. It's very much just kind of this small to medium sized map, but all just kind of very flat. Very much like I can't remember what the name, like Seaside, I think is the name of the map, which was introduced in season 5 or season 4. So played that map a little bit today. I am kind of liking. I think it's called the Yard. So just going back, the gas station is very much, to me, feels very much like Shoot House, but it doesn't have the verticality and like the secondary levels of Shoot House, so it's just all very kind of long and flat. The Yard does have some elevation and some verticality to it. It's a smaller map, so things get very, very hectic there. But I had a good time with that today. Other than that, I haven't really seen any like limited time modes or limited time events. Like I said, the major event was this weekend was the double XP weekend. So it is as far as I can tell, I believe will be the final season before Black Ops 6 drops. So definitely continuing to play that. The other thing that I've done.
Quick question on COD.
Yeah.
Do you ever play zombies at all, or have you ever played it?
The only time I've played zombies is when Swiss and DBQ and I played. Were you with us that one time that we played?
I don't think so. Yeah, I don't remember that.
Yeah, I think it was Swiss and DBQ and I, and when we did that with Cold War. And the reason I did it was because there's unlocks and things that you can get in the zombies mode that that you can't get. At least then that you couldn't. Now that was before they went to the whole map for Battle Pass. And so theoretically, most of the stuff that you can get is on the map. Like I hate on the map because I'm trying to 100% right the Battle Pass. Like because theoretically you could just like not unlock the stuff that says it's specifically for the zombie mode. But I hate it, and I do unlock it, and I'm like, okay, well, I just spent my battle token on that, but like I'll never be able to use it, but I need to 100% the map. So, but there occasionally there will be like weapons or an attachment or something like that. Although most of those In Modern Warfare 3, what they've done is those things will fall under the, I can't remember what they call them, but they will fall under the like the voluntary challenge thing. So you can tap it and put that in your challenge queue, and then it says, okay, you now have to like, in order to get this, you have to complete like 2 daily challenges or 8 daily challenges, and then they'll give it to you to compensate for not forcing you to play like some mode, right, that you just normally wouldn't play. So, but yeah, I haven't gone back to it. I know some people, it's like super popular, but I mean, I'm glad it's there for them, and I'm glad they're sticking with it. I'm glad it hasn't gotten triaged out because of, because not enough people play it, or because so many more people play Warzone. But that's the same way I also feel about the multiplayer. Like, I'm glad they haven't dropped the multiplayer just because so many people play Warzone. So, but yeah, the other thing that I've done this week, going back to the discussion of Microsoft Flight Simulator, because I saw what was, Microsoft Flight Simulator 2024 coming out in November, and then the specs getting released. I was like, I think I'm going to go ahead and finally, because it's been on my list forever, I think I'm going to go back and break out my VR headsets. And one of the things I guess that I've forgotten, because I'm old, is long ago I had 3. I had the Acer, or an Acer Windows mixed reality headset that they'd made. I had the Oculus Rift S, and I have the HTC Vive. And I know that I had moved all of them to the utility room because I was like, just VR is a hassle. I don't think I'm going to do it anymore. But I guess I've also like gone through rounds and bouts of like getting rid of stuff, over the years. I guess at some point I got rid of the other 2 headsets. And I can't remember if Greylock and I were doing a VR podcast for a while. I can't remember if when we ended that podcast, I may have shipped them both, 2 of them, to him because he said he wanted them. He's got even more VR headsets than I do. And so I may have shipped those 2 to him, or I may have just turned them in for like recycling to get rid of them. It's interesting to me that I kept the Vive of all of them, because the Vive has just a little bit more of a pain in the butt stuff to set up, because you have to set up the base stations. But I may have kept the Vive because I was thinking if I did get back into VR, what the HTC headsets allow you to do is the headset, the controllers, and the base station are all cross-compatible across their other across their product line. So you can update the headset and still use the same controllers and the base station. And their headsets, if I'm not mistaken, if I remember correctly, they have more advanced headsets now that can function without the base stations. But if you have the base stations, they will use the base stations to increase the accuracy. So I think I was trying to remember, because whenever I made this decision, I can't remember making the decision, but I can vaguely remember maybe some of the things that I maybe thought about. I think that was one of the things I thought, because I think maybe at the time I was thinking, oh, well, if I upgrade, I'm going to upgrade to the Valve Index, but when I upgrade, I'm just going to buy the Valve Index headset. Like, I'm not going to buy the whole $1,000 kit. And then since then, some additional HTC Vive kits have come out too, giving me some more upgrade paths. So I think I want to keep in that one because I had upgrade options, and I wouldn't have to, just because when it was on my list this week to go get it out of the utility room, I was already thinking through, well, I'm going to set it up and I'm going to check it out, but I'm going to go ahead and put it on my list, to do an upgrade. And I was planning on getting like the Meta Quest 3. Of course, Meta Connect is this week, right? Meta Connect 2024. Right now, it's being predicted that Meta is going to release a lower cost headset, that they're not necessarily going to go higher end. So, I mean, I may not have had any options coming out of that anyway, but but I'll pay attention to see, what's announced at Meta Connect. So at any rate, I hooked up the HTC Vive this week. This was also the first time, because when I used to be big into VR, I used to insist, for whatever reason, on installing the proprietary software suite that went along right with the Oculus and with the Vive, so Vive port for the HTC and whatever the Rift software is. This time, because I was reading up on it, because I was like, because now when you go to the Vive site, they don't there's not a link that says HTC Vive, because the HTC Vive has been superseded. They're all like the more advanced headsets, and I was like, I don't know if this software exactly goes with this or whatever. And it does, but I'd also come across some Steam forums things, and they were like, you don't need that. Like, just install Steam and Steam VR. And I was like, yeah, I think I'll do that just to try it. And I just installed Steam VR so I could have a lighter weight install. The Vive used to always give me problems with like calibration um and software compatibility, and so I don't know whether it's improved or just it's a cleaner integration by not having installed that Viveport software in the HTC stuff, but like the thing works like a dream now. Like it just like it was always meant to work with Steam. And of course, HTC actually made the Valve Index, um, which is why the HTC Vive components are compatible with the Valve Index. So yeah, it was a great experience hooking it up. I use it in a really small space. For the people who've seen it, people are always like, "How do you do VR?" Like in this little space. I was like, because mostly what I use VR for is for sims, right? To use for flight sims and space sims and flight simulators. And so I just use it in seated mode, and I'm not moving around, and waving my arms all over the place. My arms are usually, on a flight control system or on a steering wheel. And of course, the only problem that makes is, I have to really, when I do all of the setup with that, I really have to make sure I get all of the controls I need on the flight control system when I'm playing flight sims, because like I was like, I can't see the keyboard, so I can't leave any controls normally without when I'm not doing VR. I'll leave a few controls like on the keyboard, right? But not this in this case. So I haven't played anything yet, although the Steam has a vehicle sim sale going on right now, so I'm planning on picking up a few of those things. So speaking of what's next, for me, like I said, I'm gonna hopefully pick up some things from that vehicle sim sale. I also want to get over and check out Satisfactory, which is I want to call it a city builder, but it's not really a city builder. So I'll just call it a builder. But I think you're building like this big industrial complex that is essentially a city. But it's gone wildly popular on Steam. It was in early access for a while, but just left early access this over the last week or so. And like I said, it's kind of blown up. So I really want to get over and check that out. But I also plan on finally playing the Command and Conquer Remastered Collection this week. That game dropped, I want to say, was it earlier this year when the collection came to Steam?
Yeah, it was, earlier in the year.
Yeah. So if everybody remembers, it was unannounced, so it was shadow dropped, and it was a surprise to everyone. So I quickly ran to Steam and grabbed it because I had no idea how long it was going to be on sale. And actually, I had a few of the titles already, so I just had this is a thing that Steam does that's great. If they're rolling out a bundle that's like, say, 10 titles, and you already have 4 of the titles, probably like 8 years ago or so, they just started saying, hey, we're not going to make you buy the whole bundle. We'll just charge you the sales price for the stuff that you're missing, and then you'll complete your bundle. So I went and did that, right? But I haven't actually spent any time playing any of those titles. So I'm planning on trying to do that this week. Tao, what about you? You know what you got coming up next?
Probably still jumping into the Bloodline. I really want to get back into Age of Mythology. Speaking of RTSs, I haven't really had a chance the last couple weeks. I know I've said it, but I just haven't had a chance to get into it. And actually, the new Zelda, I believe, comes out this week too, and it actually looks pretty cool. I might actually pick that one up and see how that goes. So I haven't, like, the top-down Zeldas, I was never really big into, but this one looks kind of cool. So I might give it a try.
All right, well, that is going to wrap it up for us. We're wrapping up a little early tonight because there was only 2 of us instead of the 3, and things were fairly lightweight as far as like what at least what I've been playing. So no 15 to 20 minute breakdown for new games for me on this episode. So until next time, take care of yourselves, stay safe out there, play the games that you like, come here to talk to us about the games that you love. Once again, my name has been GameLogic from the Rounding Off Infinity Gaming channel on YouTube, here with my co-host TomMaster99. Thanks so much for everybody who swung through the chat and stopped by the live stream. Warwana, we appreciate you. Hero Down Under, we appreciate you. think there were several other people who stopped by, so we appreciate you guys stopping by. And I think most of the people came by to hear the debrief of the Nintendo lawsuit, so we appreciate people stopping by. So I think that's going to do it for us. Until next time, good night, good luck, and good gaming. That's going to do it for us. We're out of here.